Special Operations, Covert Ops, Espionage, The Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Hey everyone, welcome to our Christmas episode. I hope it's going to be episode 251. I'm Jack, here with Dave. Our guest on tonight's show is Melissa Najera. She is a Army psyops veteran, served in psychological operations and deployed as the first female psychological operations team leader to a combat zone. And we're really excited to have her on the show tonight. So Melissa, thank you for coming on and doing this.
Well, thanks, Dave and Jack. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll start with the same question that we ask, all of our guests. So a little bit about your origin story. If you could tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how that kind of took you towards military service.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in El Paso, Texas, the desert. I was raised halfway there, and I graduated out of Tucson, Arizona, and got accepted to NMSU. So that's where I did my schooling at for around 3.5 years there. I did ROTC and JROTC throughout my time. So I was always bound to be in the military. I knew from the beginning that that's what I was going to do. I just couldn't pick what branch between Marines and Army. I ended up choosing the Army because I went to a Marine Devil Pup small camp that they send bad kids to, but I asked my dad, in fact, I begged my dad to pay for me to go to it with another friend, and we were the few ones that volunteered to go, and the rest were the bad kids that go, and you get for around 3 weeks you get treated like crap by your Marine people. It was great. I loved it. I've always enjoyed that type of stuff. Anything physical and intense I like. But I did talk to the female drill sergeants there, or drill instructors, and they said that there was no place for the female really to go aside from supply, quartermaster, and that's not what I was looking for. So I went ahead and chose the Army. And in 2002, after a year after the towers, I joined active duty. I joined the reserves out of NMSU and El Paso, Texas. I joined the reserves there. I had a GT score of 118, but I was given 4 options. I guess, I don't know, maybe because I'm a female, and maybe because I was going to reserve, but I was given to be a laundry and bath, a fueler, 88 mic, and a sewing parachute person. And I was like, I can't sew, I can't cook, I cook. I couldn't do none of that. So I said, what's the one that's gonna get me the dirtiest and, most in the ground? And they said fueler. So I went with fueler with a GT score of 118 and a 300 PT score. And then I did around 3.5 years there. The war kicked off in Iraq. And I was still going to NMSU, and I was still in the ROTC program. Was never going to commission. I knew I was always meant to be a knuckle dragger and enlisted, but I had fun with them for 3 years, and my master sergeant was the one behind me when I said I was going to go active duty and stay enlisted. But in 2003, the war kicked off, my reserve unit activated, and we were going to go to Iraq, and I was like, man, I'm going to die from this reserve people because there was some crazy shit going on with these reservists or something else. And we ended up not making out there. Turkey closed their borders, so we stayed at the home front, and all our shit made it out there, and we didn't. So we lost all our equipment and tough boxes and vehicles and tankers. But in 2005, I went active duty. I requested Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and in 2006, I went to Iraq as a fueler, which is not the best thing in Iraq to do. But when I came back, I knew I wanted to get out quartermaster, and I went to the psyop Q course. The qualification course in 2008, and made it through and continued through there. Sears School, Griffin Jumpmaster, and then in 2010 and 11 I went to Afghanistan with an ODA, and then 2011 and 12 I went again for another rotation.
Can you tell
when
us?
I came back, I wanted a third rotation, but women weren't out there at the time. So and I almost got blown up a couple times, and they thought I was in a body bag for a bit. So
Whoa.
The command got, I think, scared. And when I came back, they instantly threw me to the battalion, or the S3, and I wasn't ready to stop. I wasn't ready to take a knee. I was desperate to go back out. The last rotation, we ended on a kind of bad note. We lost somebody that we didn't get avenged for. And I just felt like going back out. I felt I wasn't done. So, and the unit wasn't willing to send me. PSYOP was giving me a hard time. and I've always been fighting back and forth with PSYOP. So I chose to lead them, and I got accepted to go assess for a special missions unit. And I went over there, assessed for 45 days, came back and was accepted, and started OTC in 2013. But it's a long story, but in between there, in 2015, I ended up pregnant. I was married for 10 years already, and I chose to come back to PSYOP, and thought I'd go over to the female side and the CAG side, go try out with them, but I just was naive and had my baby and chose to just finish off my time in PSYOP, and that's about it.
So,
And then I ended up just retiring.
can you? We've never had a fueler on, and we don't talk a lot often with people who have been on the more support side of things. Can you tell us what the training was like and what your role was as a fueler?
So back when I went in 2002, we were still not full blown to basic and AIT. It wasn't full blown into war. So people were doing CQB and basic training, and you're still doing bayonet course and all that old stuff. I don't even remember I have bad memory. I don't remember most of AIT. I was in Virginia. I was maybe a 6 months or something. I don't know how, but they all say when you get to your unit, you're going to learn. So when I got in '06 to the active duty, because reserve, when you don't learn nothing, I just took advantage of my reserve time and had fun at the ROTC and went to airborne school and Mountain Warfare School while I was on the reserves playing, the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. But when I went into active duty, and within a month after going active duty and going to Fort Bragg, I deployed with them, and that's where I learned my job, how to refuel Bradleys. I did aviation refueling, so I refueled Kiowas, Chinooks, CASAs, Sherpas, and then I got to refuel some tanks as well. Back in 2006 and 2007, that was when the fuelers and your 88 mics were really getting hit hard with casualties from being on the roads.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to be on the road hauling, which meant I would be, pulling a 5-ton or a Hemet with a JP8 big ass barm on my butt. But I guess the planets aligned just right, and we got pulled off that mission. The unit that we ended up replacing got kicked out of country because they were siphoning gas, and some big old, the whole command went down, and it was a big mess. So it was just immediate plug. And so we got pulled off our mission and got shoved into that one, and I guess it saved quite a bit of us. So I got the comfort side of Iraq. I didn't get to get on the roads often. We didn't drive. I just refueled aviation and did the ADAG mission. So quartermaster is necessary. Quartermaster is everywhere, right? You lose a war without quartermaster, but it wasn't for me. Let's just say that's not what I intended. I intended to actually go to 82nd when I went active duty, and they sent me to 18th Airborne Corps. And I don't know if you've been on Fort Bragg, but it's on the other side of the train tracks, the railroad. And let me say, it is definitely on the wrong side of tracks. It was a shock. And I deployed with them, and I was like, nope, one time's enough. I've got to get out of here. So I just didn't fit in.
So how did psyops come up on your radar? How did you find out about it and think it would be a good fit for you?
Well, nobody knows what the hell PSYOP is, right? I found out about it when I went to that word course, the PLDC back in the day, but I don't know what I can't remember what it's called now.
Like the Warrior
WLC
Leader
or
course or something like that.
And Warrior Leader course, but PLDC back then, And there was a sniper there. I kind of talked to him a little bit, but they stuck to themselves. And when I came back, I knew I needed to leave the unit. I couldn't stay there. I requesting to go to Air Soldier School. They were just, I was just too motivated to be in that unit. And I started rubbing people wrong because I just, I couldn't just go out there up tempo, very slow and lazy up tempo. And so I just started looking around, and I remember I had heard about PSYOP, and there was a buddy of mine. She said her husband was civil affairs, and I started looking into civil affairs, and I said, okay, well, yeah, building schools and build wells and all that. But I didn't know what PSYOP was. So I didn't realize that PSYOP was so closed off to females at the time then. So I went for that one, and I sent in a packet. They accepted me, and I went to go. At the time, we still didn't have the I think it's 11-day now assessment and selection for PSYOP. I was a precursor to it, so it was like a Genesis program, 3 years of building before the assessment course for them. But I went through that and went through the course, and then I got accepted and finished it off. And um, that's when I realized maybe I should have gone CA in the beginning.
So for viewers out there who don't understand what psyops is, what psychological operations are in the Army, could you give like a little description of like what that career field is like?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to give a real quick description. It's like when someone tells you, like, what would you do as an SF? You're like, shit, what don't I do? Depends on your series, right? 18 Bravo, whatever.
You can give a longer description. It's
but
fine.
the biggest, sure, no, yeah, the biggest thing is just we influence and change human behavior on specific target audiences that we've picked to better the support of the United States. And how you do it is where it becomes how you do it, when you do it, and who you do it to is where it becomes tricky. But we just influence and change behavior, just like I think the other female said. When they do it to us, it's propaganda. When we do it we don't do it to Americans, it's not allowed. But when we do it to adversaries or our partner forces, it's psyop. And when civilians do it, it's marketing or media.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And a lot of people unfortunately kind of think that psyops are just like pamphlet droppers, that you guys take cardboard boxes full of pamphlets and dump them out of the back of a helicopter. But I mean, there's a lot more to it, isn't
Well, because
there?
some psyopers, yeah. Well, there's a lot of our own psyopers that think that's all what it is. That it's just leaflets. And had a real big rude awakening when we started working a lot more in Afghanistan. We realized you can't just drop leaflets. Over 90% of the population is illiterate. They're just gonna when you wipe their ass with it, right? Because they don't wipe their ass like that. So it was pointless to go at that medium. You had to find a different way. So we had to adjust to it because a lot of your older guys from the first Gulf War, that's what they did. They dropped a lot of leaflets, and it was real successful in the first Gulf War. You had, I can't remember how 400 some people surrendered in Iraq because they dropped them. They did a psychological action, we call it SIAC, in one village, and then on the next village, after the leaflets were dropped, they knew that we were about to bomb them because the previous village did. So they all, dropped their weapons down and came out. So it was useful there, but it wasn't the same in Afghanistan. So they had to adjust fire there.
Mm-hmm. And so what was your first position when you got to PSYOPs? I mean, was this, what is it on Bragg? Is it the 4th PSYOP Battalion or 4th PSYOP Group?
It changes every time. I don't know. Pick a day, pick a name. So originally, when I first got there in 08, 09, it was the 4th POG,
Yes.
Psychological Operation Group. And then they created another one. It was 4th and 8th, because then it split the battalions up amongst them. In PSYOP, 9th Battalion, as of still now, was the only tactical battalion. The whole battalion was tactical, and all your other battalions lined up with the region. 1st Battalion lined up with 7th Group. 7th Battalion was with 3rd Group with AFRICOM and whatnot. But along the way, it changed to MESOC, which was just a big old gaggle fuck, and then it went back. And I don't know, I've been out for 5 years, and I keep up with a couple of my buddies there, and I hear that they're actually falling under 1st SFC now. So there's a lot of moaning and groaning right now. And
yes.
I sit back here and laugh.
And so what was your first duty position when you got to the unit, when you arrived there?
So when I first got to it, I got instantly assigned to 9th Battalion, and then I got pushed down to a line company, Charlie Company. And when most females, and I guess because they do a board and they go through it, your old timers go through and distribute the people coming in. And I guess I was an honor grad for the SAP course, and I had a couple of the distinguishing stuff and PT and my language, and I'm brown, so I fit in. So I might have looked okay on paper, so they sent me to Charlie Company, a line company. But females don't usually go to the line companies, and if they do, they go to the PDD, the Product Development Detachment. So the way that one company is set up is there's 3 detachments, usually 12 men, just kind of like ODA. And then there is a support one of product development. And they're the ones that usually back in the big bases, big FOBs. And that's where you put your females. Well, I instantly went to Charlie Company, I'm trying to think the detachment. Sorry, I might have a child bust in. I had
No,
kids.
it's okay.
To the first detachment, and since we were on a mission at that time, they rotate a mission. I don't know if they do that in SF too, but they rotate a mission that keeps us here on home. And if there's a natural disaster, Katrina happens again, that whole company will go and support that. At the time when I got to Charlie Company, that's where we were at. So I guess they saw it fit for me to be. It was okay for me to be in a detachment, even though women weren't allowed there. Then Haiti happened, and instantly they pushed me out of there into the training room because they didn't want me deploying with it because I was a female. But at the time, I had, more qualifications than half our psyopers, and I had been, eagerly going to all these schools and SEER school, and I can outruck quite a bit of people, and Jump Master, Griffin Group, and all that stuff. And so the minute we came back from Haiti, I fought to get back on the detachment. And when we deployed to Afghanistan the first time with Charlie Company in 2010, I was in the detachment, but I was considered the detachment headquarters. So that's why I snuck on, was with the officer, because we have a detachment, and then you have you guys have your alpha and your warrant. Well, we have an alpha and a team daddy, an officer, a captain, and a E7 usually should be on there. And I was, the helping hand in there. I snuck on as part of the headquarters, and then when a team went down and was the team leader need to be removed because of stuff going on, I ended up filling that back spot, and I got on a team, and that's the way it went.
So at the time they were reticent to put women on the tactical PSYOPs teams that are sort of like out there working side by side special forces ODAs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and even though the MOS is not considered a combat MOS, therefore there's nothing on paper. And that was my biggest fight, Tom. Show me on paper that says I can't be on a detachment. Show me on paper I can't be on a team. If I can't cut the mustard, then I'm good. But if I can outdo half these guys, why can't I be on a team? We had all the things from, well, what about when you're on your cycles? Like, look, this is the 2000s now, 2008. I said, I literally take depot, so I don't even cycle. Second of all, half the rest of the world lives in a place that doesn't have water. Do you think they die from having their cycle out there? I said, we saw Afghanistan. Some people were baking some funkiness up in there. It's life. So
it attracts the bears.
I was just thinking about the bears.
It's the bears.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? This show is sponsored by HIMSS. Real talk, 52% of men over 40 experience some form of ED between the ages of 40 and 70. But it's always been a taboo topic. Thankfully, HIMSS is changing that by providing affordable access to ED treatment all online. HIMSS is changing men's health care by providing affordable access and discreet sexual health treatments, all from the comfort of your couch. HIMSS provides access to clinically proven generic alternatives to Viagra and Cialis up to 95% cheaper, with options as low as $2 per dose. The process is simple and 100% online. No uncomfortable doctor visits anymore. Answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option for you. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you for free and in discreet packaging. No insurance is needed. Pay one low price for your treatments, online visits, ongoing shipments, and provider messaging. HIMSS has hundreds of thousands of subscribers, so if ED is getting you down, it's time to change that. I use HIMSS. I love it. It's great. It makes it all pretty easy. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/teamhouse. That's HIMS.com/teamhouse for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/teamhouse. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Thank you. What's up, guys? Team House is also sponsored by Factor. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. It can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling your holiday to-dos. It's basically meal prep. It's awesome. It's done for you. Literally takes 2 minutes in the microwave to heat up, and you'll enjoy it. They also have insanely good smoothies. I'm literally eating Factor meals. They're delicious. Looking for a calorie conscious option over the holidays or after the holidays because you ate a little bit too much, don't want to skimp on flavor, try delicious dietitian approved calorie smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. I'm just going to talk about Factor for a little bit. It's freaking awesome. I have boxes and boxes in my house. They're awesome. 2 minutes in the microwave, you heat it up. They're delicious. They have breakfast. They have pancakes, waffles, lunch, dinner. They have everything you could possibly need. And, like I was a little suspicious. I've been eating them for like the last 3 weeks. They are banging. I'm not kidding. I swear to you. And they're pretty healthy. 550 calories per meal. That's pretty good. Like, if you're trying to lose weight, this is the way to go. This December, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered right to your door. Ready in 2 minutes, no mess, no prep. Call to action. Shit, I wasn't supposed to say that. Head to factormeals.com/teamhouse50 and use the code teamhouse50 to get 50% off your order. That's code teamhouse50 at factormeals.com/teamhouse50 to get 50% off. You could also check out the links down in the description and in the show notes, whether you're watching or listening. We appreciate it. Thank you, Factor Meals. Factor.com/teamhouse50. Use the code teamhouse50 to get 50% off your order. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Bears.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I guess it made my take was always it made psyop feel elite by saying no females are allowed, they're above there, and I know the mission does come with it, but when you're the redhead stepchild, which psyop is, they hate it, but we're the redhead stepchild to SF, right? They have to prove, they're always trying to prove something, they're always proving, right? And by not having a female on there puts them at the same level as your SF was. And it's funny because everybody would always tell me, you can't be on a team because of all these other excuses, your rag and everything. And then on top of it, no team is going to accept you. No SF team, no SEAL team, no MARSOC team is going to accept you. Well, MARSOC didn't exist back then. And I was like, well, how about you let me deal with that? And if they don't accept me, they kick me out. Because I don't know if you've ever worked with SOP. There's a lot of male SOP operators that can't work well with other teams and SEALs and SF. So I said, why don't you let me see if they do accept me? And if they do, then and if they don't, they kick me out.
Right.
And the funny thing is they accepted me way better than psyop did.
So what was you kind of explained that you were kind of cooling your heels in headquarters, just waiting for that opportunity to get over there. When you saw it, jumped on it. What was it like when you arrived? I mean, what if you could tell us like what FOB, and I think you told us what team you were with, like where you arrived and what the mission was when you got there.
Well, so to begin with, I wasn't one to just sit and wait. I was very a go-getter, and I wasn't just going to sit on the headquarters. I knew in my head that the minute I got on country, I was going to find a way out. So once I got there, I started establishing my point of context, and I started, just mingling, just talking to people. There was this sergeant major, the AOB sergeant major. I forgot how we came about. We were talking, and we were in a big meeting with everybody, and he was talking about doing a black psyop. Which is really rarely done. It's those
where it's not apparent that it's coming from America.
Exactly. Yeah. Because most of the time, psyop is all truth. It's white psyop or gray psyop. We're not telling you what it is, but we're not telling you it's somebody else. And then you have your deception. Your deception campaigns are so rarely happening. But one was coming up. They were trying to put something together to talk about. It was this kind of bogus, but whatever. It was, we're going to drop some parachutes with dry ice and to try to make it look like they believed there was these ghost soldiers going around. We're going to try to influence that and get that going and try to get a scare going on there. And they have no current jump masters right now. They're at the AOB, and I was current qualified jump master and static line jump master, and so I actually started taking on the whole mission by myself and setting it up, and we were working with the riggers and all these different stuff. And when that sergeant major, the AOB sergeant major, saw that an E5, back then I was an E5, was willing to take on that and a female, he started seeing potential in other places and started wanting to take me out with the commandos. Because I was in Kandahar out at Camp Brown as the headquarters as a headquarters. And since right there, the commando units there, they started talking about taking me with them. So once my higher up headquarters heard that, they said they felt tension on the other side that they were going to lose me one way or another. They were going to lose me to the commandos and working that mission, or they were going to find a place for me in a team. So when the opportunity came that a team leader would need to be replaced, command felt it better to at least use me that way instead of lose me to the SF guys and being used as a
I
work with the commandos.
I have to ask Melissa, did this Ghost Soldiers mission ever happen? No,
It didn't. It's so
get
hard
off
to
the
get
ground.
this deception mission going, but
Yeah.
too many things were gonna go wrong with it.
Yeah.
You know, who's gonna unbuckle? It just, you know, days and days of brainstorming and who's gonna unbuckle the stuff and who's gonna retrieve the chutes. Are we willing to release these chutes? And it just it wasn't worth putting everything into it. But it got me out there, got me in with the people that I needed to mingle with, and forced my hand on my psyop, because when we go in psyop, kind of like how you guys do, your AOB is pretty close and it was in campground, right? If you were there, and then you spread out through there. But for psyop, one whole company goes into country, and that company headquarters is in Bagram, and then all the rest of the teams, the detachments spread out throughout the rest of the place, and then they push the teams off to their supporting units, you know, to the SEALs and the ODAs. So usually one ODA takes a 2 or 3 man team with them for PSYOP, and you know, my headquarters is all the way in Bagram, and then the whole sit rep just runs up. So
And so what
I guess
was
shit
it?
ran up and shit came down, and they had to find a place for me.
I want to ask though, like, what was it like when you got down there working with the ODA? Like, where did you go? What was the mission when you got there?
So 3134, when I got down to them, was working VSO. When I got with them, they had just lost 2 of their guys because they got there, and within 3 weeks of the being in country, they lost their Alpha and their Delta in one blast, and the team took it really hard, and that's when that whole replacing of my team leader had to happen, or the PSYOP team leader had to happen, because he was bumping heads or rubbing wrong, or, you know, not being cognizant of the way the team was feeling, and being very giddy and, hey guys, when the team is going through a big loss. They lost their command and their Delta. And, you know, back then they're always hurting. You're always hearing from medics, and they only had one medic and one officer. So they took a Delta from the AOB, and the warrant took over as a team. So when I got to them, they already didn't like they already kind of were having a problem with PSYOP. They were in a real big rut because they had lost 2 of their guys. Their junior Bravo got pretty tore up too. It was a slow start when I got there, and I just knew I had, with everything, I just knew I had to just carry my own weight and let their minds make them their own minds, you know, whether I'm an asset to the team or am I just a big, you know, burden.
And I mean, as a tactical PSYOP soldier, what was your part? Like, how did you integrate with that ODA, and how did you help them, you know, accomplish their mission?
So in PSYOP, we always say, you know, we're all about influencing and influence the enemy to do this or influence the local populace. But the first thing you have to influence is the team you're attaching with. You have to be able to sell yourself to them and be able to get, you know, to work with them. If you can't do that, then you're not going to get your job done as good. Yes, there's times when you can just try just be on your own or run your own missions, but it's not going to be as successful. When you have your CA, your PSYOP, and your SF working together, that's when you have the best outcome. So I went there and I did it real quick. I knew it was going to be a little weird because they weren't used to having females there, but I was just going to just be myself and just stick to my guns, and I went there and gave me a real quick down and dirty brief, what I could bring to the team, what we can do, and I guess we just went from there.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, as that relationship started to develop, I mean, how did it work?
It worked good because, you know, in Afghanistan, it's even more so than Iraq, where the women are untouchable target audience. Everything from medical treatment to, you know, doing the clearing the village. You can't go into the females. You can't go in there and, you know, they'll hide all the females in one room and they say you can't go in there, there's females, but you don't know what else is in there. So I came with that. I came with the benefit of being a female and be able to touch that target audience in PSYOP version, as well as being able to go in there and sell myself and tell the ODA, hey, I could search these people. I can search that part of the building. I'm small. I can fit in goat tunnels. I've been inside of goat pens looking for weapons. And then on top of that, I might not be physically fit now. I'm a little out of shape, but back then I can hold my own. So I, told them all the different stuff. Like with any job, you don't know, you have to find your niche and you had to find a way to do it. But I just took it day at a time.
How did the PSYOP piece, or did it, integrate with the ODA mission on this particular tour?
Well, VSO is a real big thing for PSYOP because we're living amongst, it's the same with the ODA, the SF guys, we're living amongst the populace. You got to deal with the mullah. You got to be able to know their culture. You got to be able to know who to influence, who are the influencers, how to influence them, and what mechanism to use. So I brought that to the team. We worked a lot with the mullahs. We worked a lot with the who's really big on female schools. We had a civil affairs team there near the end, but in the beginning we didn't. So I kind of took on the civil affairs in my first rotation, the civil affairs position as well as a PSYOP, and we did a lot of the medical stuff because the deltas and all of them. Once that team took that hit, they kind of backed off their offensive and were more stagnant. They took the VSO and turned it into a VSP instead, and I think that's when we had the SEALs. They pushed the SEAL team or Trident team down to that location and to push up to where they were going to initiate another VSO, because that SF team that we did 3134 that I was with was supposed to push from Cochra's VSP up to and make another VSO up in another town called I can't remember what it's called now. It's been so long. But when they're moving up there, that's where they hit those IDs, and after that, they didn't make that push up there, so they just kind of stayed stagnant there in that VSP. Well, they brought a SEAL team, Trident team down to go run that mission. If anybody's worked with Trident, they're not meant to do FID missions. They're just not culturally aware or capable, or maturity level so low that it just was a bad mix about to happen. But they pushed the team down to our VSP. We dealt with SEALs there and ODA, a lot of Type A personalities about to kill each other until they pushed out. And so I don't know. It was a slower mission my first rotation. The 31341 was more like a fit should be, not
Right.
much offensive.
Right.
We worked with the mullah at times. We worked with the Darwashan town that was there, village, so well that the I got to go on with the mullah's wives. I would make food with them. I'd hold the babies, and I'd come out and sit and talk with the mullah. So I kind of played both sides, and it really helped out because with the district governor, I did the same thing. I went and talked with his wives, his children, and then I'd go and sit with the guys and talk that route. So I got to go both ways. I'd put on my burqa and I'd take it off, and I was good.
So it sounds like that VSO mission pretty much went the way it was supposed to go, thankfully.
Yeah.
And then return back to the United States at the end of that rotation. And do you maintain this position as tactical team leader? Is that something they keep you in now that you're there?
I came right back, and right when I got off the bus, they said, hey, we're not even going to give you an SUR saying you're out there. You're not going to get an award for being out there. I said, I don't give a fuck. Shove your award up your ass. How would you go out there for an award? I went out for the experience. So I don't care about no award. In fact, the ODA are giving me multiple awards because I helped deliver 3 babies out there with the Delta. And so I didn't care about an award, but I guess they ended up coming through and giving me one. Somebody fought for it or something like that, and I got an award. But the minute I got back, they threw me to the training room again.
Yeah.
So every time it was the same thing. I was up in the training room with the bitch, I don't know if I can say that. I was up in the training room doing that admin work, which I am not good at. Well, all the rest of them stay down there. The next rotation, when they go out to go train with the ODAs, right before you go out, you go PMT, your pre-mission training out at Fort Bliss, where it's my hometown. I I fought real hard to try to get on it because I knew I was going to get on a team. There was no way I was going to do a rotation in the headquarters after already having a team. So I was trying to get on a PMT, but they were like, nope, you're not going to get on a PMT. You're not going to do pre-mission training. All the teams went out and did pre-mission training with the ODAs, and I stayed there. And when we came back, I found a way to get on a team again, and I went back out without doing pre-mission training. That's the way it is. You just got to accept the good with the bad.
So you had it was again, by hook and by crook, making your way to an ODA.
Yeah, it's always been. I've always been fighting with PSYOP and the whole, just because you don't have a swinging dick, you can't do it. I'm like, hey, half these guys, some of these, I'm saying,
Some of their
some of our
dicks don't
PSYOPers
swing.
are real big brainers,
Yeah.
but not as much physical. And there's some great ones, there's bad ones, just like ODAs are the same, right? SF, SEALs are the same, everybody. But I was like, if I can't cut it, then I got it. But if I'm cutting it better than some of these guys, just because I have a slit instead of what, what's the deal? And he said, well, the whole death thing, I was like, I bleed the same. I'll bleed twice as much sometimes. Shit.
So on the second deployment, which ODA did you get sent to? What base was this on this time?
So the second rotation in 2011 and 12, I went with 3434. And that's when you guys had just started the fourth battalions. So I went out there with them. A lot of them were younger, and it was their first rotation. But those guys are like my brothers from another mother, and I have some nostalgic. Yeah, I'm super nostalgic about that rotation. It was a lot rougher rotation. We have a lot more ticks, a lot more aggressiveness. We had a team sergeant that got replaced and put into this ODA, and he was this team sergeant that came in was a very highly decorated third group guy, Master Sergeant Paul Feisel, and he just took this team to another level and had a great time with them.
And so you said that this mission or this deployment was quite different than your first. Could you tell us a little bit about like how the mission differed, how the enemy situation differed?
So the first rotation was a lot slower. We did a lot more med caps. I took in a lot of the females and we gained a lot of information from them. We delivered babies. We took care of kids that got blown up. I found a lot of ways to use Taliban's mistakes to influence the local populace. And anytime they hurt somebody, they blew a kid up, they blew up the school. I either made radio broadcasts at the time. That was one of the methods we were using because we realized Afghans couldn't read well and they weren't caring about the leaflets. So we knew that at the time Taliban had taken away music, so we decided to bring radios in a box. We call them Riyadhs. I don't know if you heard about them. So radio in a box, and you get a 10-minute quick course on it, how to set it up. I got electrocuted multiple times with the damn antennas and set up an antenna and a radio station in my living hooch, and we ran music. We got music from your class 1 Terps, your locals, and we would broadcast music, and in between it we broadcast commercials, propaganda, whatever you want to call it at the time. PSYOP. We broadcast our messages. I would do interviews with the locals. I'd interview the Afghan National Army, the ANP, your local police, your ALP, and I interview them. And I had this program going, kind of saying, let's get to know your local police, so that the people kind of felt, make that connection. And most of my time was doing interviews, delivering babies, taking care of kids, plugging, injuries, taking pictures, and making products from Taliban's mistakes, and creating a cell tower and running, hotlines, missions. Because even though they don't have toilet paper or whatever, they still always have cell phones out there. As long as you put a cell tower, then you can get them connected. And we run tip lines, and we actually got quite a bit of good hits with the tip lines.
Interesting.
And in PSYOP, it's hard to measure your success. It's almost unmeasurable, right? Because everybody influences something. So you can't say this was influenced because what I did. You could try to piece the puzzle together and be like, well, because of these, we call them MOEs, measure of effectiveness, I think my product helped do this. But in reality, you can't say black and white that it is because of what you did. But we did have some really good MOEs, measure of effectiveness, when we had our cell tower blown up multiple times because the locals were calling in too many tips. And so Taliban got real pissed off and was blowing up the tower, and we go fix it and they blow it up, and we put guards out there and then they blow it up again. So it was ideal. It was perfect. Like the VSO or FID should happen. I trained the locals there. Your ODA trained them. 18 Bravo trained the police and all that. That's the way that one ran. The next one was a lot more offensive. We were, constantly going out and we doing, raids or caught up level 2s, caught up level 0s. It was a lot different, and it was good to see both sides. On one side, deliver babies. On the next side, we're,
Delivering
doing
death.
a different mission. We had a lot more casualties on the second one too, while I was there. So.
If you're okay, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about some of those like close calls and firefights that maybe you guys got into?
Yeah, no problem. So, IDs are everywhere. My first one too, the big difference was we were in vehicles a lot. LATVs, your RGs, your MATVs. My second one was all on foot, because you couldn't get down the roads, they would just blow you up. So this team sergeant just had us walking all the time, 12 Ks and making movements all around and we were just present patrols everywhere on foot. Because you're on foot more often, you're likely to hit an ID and not survive it, because compared to the vehicles, it's just the way it is. On one of them, it was just a bloody week. A lot of the Afghan kids would come to me because I was the face in our little VSO. I was brown like them. They thought I was Afghani. I spoke Pashto. I was a female, and then I was working the civil affairs mission. We had no civil affairs team there, so I ran all the humanitarian aid. I'd collect all this stuff, and I'd give out all the beans and rice and socks for the kids. And I had a school program going on because our thought was Taliban is recruiting these young 10, 11, 12-year-old males because they're ignorant, just like a gang, just like here in the United States. They gang members recruit young kids because they're naive, they're malleable, they're naive. Yeah, they could take advantage of them. And so we figured if we educate them young, then we won't have to fight them later. So we started doing school in the radio, school in the box. We went all the way up to Bagram. They created a curriculum, and we give out these educational books, and we'd run teaching programs on the radio, and I'd give out radios that sometimes, yes, they would use for bombs, but you win some, you lose some. And so the kids would come to the base looking for me, and they would say my name in their little Afghan accent. And when they came visiting that week, they got blown up. Two of the kids that usually would come, and I went and we got pictures of them so we can make products and use it to help influence some more. And then the following mission, a couple days later, was supposed to be on that truck with the Afghan police, but my leadership had come in, so I got pulled off of it, and so I could take care of them. And then that truck, they very few times we actually used the vehicles. They blew up. I had my radio speaker in there that somehow managed to make it through, but it had body parts on it and chunks. We went back and retrieved the bodies of the Afghans. I had, in fact, I still have a picture of where the two SF, the 18 Delta and the 18 Charlie, were in the back of this Ranger. And right before, when they told him, hey, don't go down that route, it's got IEDs, the Afghan wouldn't listen, so they just jumped out the back. And they went down 10 feet more and blew themselves up. So I have pictures of them in the back when they were leaving. And I was like, well, we'll see. I would have been in the middle and the inside.
Oh, man.
But so that the following day, we had another mission, and we went back that same route and missed IDs the whole way there. We were going to set up a checkpoint for the Afghan police. And we were up in the top and separating some stuff. And we had... at the time, because everybody was spread so thin, they started attaching a platoon of infantry guys to the SF teams. I don't know if you remember. And we had a 10th Mountain platoon out there with us, and they're pretty young guys, but really, motivated and good. They were physically fit. And we took them out on this mission and took a couple of the 11 Charlies. And I think the 11 Charlies, that might have been their second mission ever with us. And one of the 11 Charlies that I had ridden with, he was a gun guy. When he got out, he just they were setting up these Hescos, and he just stepped on my ID and turned into a bag of bones and gave another younger kid ended up with a triple amputee, and me and the Delta worked on them. We ran up there it was on the hill because they started realizing we would take the high ground, right? We'd always take the high ground. We'd make our checkpoints up there. We take it. And so they just started riddling the whole top of the mountains and the hills with IEDs. And that's what they did. And we hit the ID, and it had probably 105 round in it because it caused a lot of damage. One KIA, I think like 3 wounded, and triple amputee. And the Delta was up there, and I would start working with the Delta to help him fix the triple amputee and got them out. So it was a really long day because then after that we had to clear. We found 7 more IEDs. The 11 Charlie found them all. We were clearing them, and then we had to ride back the same way that we knew that the Afghan Ranger was still there, where we had to retrieve the dead bodies. And on the way back, I took the gun because there was no more gunner on our vehicle. He was in a body bag, and we had and then so it was actually only 2 of us in RG, the driver and myself 3, and then the TC. So I took the gun, and the 11 Charlie and the dog handler were walking, and the dog sat on a triggered IED.
Holy
Another
shit.
one, it just didn't go off all the way, and so we medevac the dog and the handler with him. It was just a really long week, and it ended up being on October 13th, Friday the 13th. So it just was.
It sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, and we had a couple more, but there's a couple that stand out in my mind. But those 2, that one and December 3rd was the hard ones.
And I mean, how did the rest of the deployment go? Like after that, I mean, do you guys have to? I know it's always difficult to pick up after you take casualties like that and keep going and driving through the mission. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, the team sergeant was real smart. He had been on, I think, 13 rotations or whatever. He had 2 silver stars, and he understood. He'd been through casualties before, and he understood that you couldn't let us take a break. So even though we came back and we, had all that stuff, and we had people in our ice cool, because we were living out in the middle of nowhere. You don't have nothing. You don't have no. We had one little ice cooling trailer, and that's where we put the bodies at. But he knew instantly to get us right back out. So the next day we were out on missions. You just can't let people sit and think about it. We just jumped right back into missions. The ones that got medevac, and one of the 11 Bravos that got medevac ended up real bad. He tried to commit suicide a couple times because he just couldn't cope. I think he didn't get to cope with us. He didn't get to heal with us there, and
Right.
they brought him back, and he stayed in Kandahar, and he had fragmentation of his buddy that had died all in his body too. So it just kind of hit him real hard. And compared to us, we just got right back on the horse and did mission after mission. And it helped us keep going. We didn't stay on it. We did a lot of cross training, so that helped out a lot. I worked with 18 Delta a lot. I got to do a lot of hands-on stuff. I would teach them how to do the messaging that was. Half the time they didn't know what I was doing because it's hard to explain psyop, but they knew that I'd carry my own weight, and I'd also help them on whatever I could on that side. I wasn't afraid to, fill sandbags, burn shit, or do whatever everybody else had to do to carry your own weight.
So in the end of the day, I mean, this turned out to be, I'm just thinking back to what you said earlier that, SF ended up accepting you more than PSYOP did. And it sounded like you guys came together really well.
Yeah, they didn't see no problem to it. Once, I lived amongst them right there. You shit side by side, you pee side by side, doesn't matter. Once you get to that, bullet doesn't care what you are. Doesn't care if you have a slit or if you don't. It's going to get you one way or another. The ID, I make jokes of it. I was like, look, they'd be putting my little feet. I was like, hey, I got smaller surface space to trigger an IED. You got big old King Kong feet. I was like, when we went to Griffin Group, I was the only female too. And, when you're getting shot at with the paintballs, I picked the biggest SF guys, big old muscular SF guys. And me and you, let's be on a team. Because guess what? He's such a big target. Man, I could just run beside him and I wouldn't get hit. So you just kind of make fun of the stuff that's there and play paper, scissors, rock to see who's going to step on the next IED and just kind of keep it lighthearted. But these guys, quite a bit of them, I see them as a brother from another mother. They, the team sergeant, saw us all as his children, I guess. And they were willing to give me us, because it was a Halo team. Both of them were Halo teams, and this team was, could give me a Halo slot because I've been trying to go through Halo school, but PSYOP wasn't never going to let you do anything because PSYOP's mentality was if it's not PSYOP relevant, then you're not going to it, because they have such a big chip on their shoulder from SF, stereotypically half the PSYOPers and PSYOP leadership, that anything that sounds like it might be SF related, if it's, offensive instead of defensive, they're like, you don't need to go to it. You don't need to go master gunner course. You don't need to go to life tissue training. And I had a big fight always with the PSYOP leadership, explaining to them like, hey, I can't do PSYOP if I'm fucking dead. So why don't you let me live first? Let me go to these things that are keep me alive, because we're going on the same exact missions side by side as ODA is. So the only difference is they got the training. They get to go to master gunner's course. They get to do life tissue training. My life tissue training was on ground, which it's not fair to me, and it's not fair to the casualty that I'm working with.
Yeah. Did you grow up with brothers?
Yes. And my father only had three. Well, my father had three girls, but he was in the military, and I've always been a tomboy.
Yeah. I was just curious because it seems as though you fit in really well with the guys. Also, like, you use humor to just make it an everyday situation. And so I was just curious if you had brothers and,
Yeah, and people would ask me that too. With people that heard that I'd be the only female in these locations, they're like, "Well, aren't you scared of the guys?" I said, "Why would I be scared of the guys?" I said, "You can be in America and you get raped. I mean, I don't want to say the R word, but you're like, you can be anywhere and something can happen. It doesn't matter." And they're gonna respect you as much as you put out. They're gonna, as in effort, not put out. Like okay? But they're gonna respect you if you just carry your own weight. If you become part of the team. If you're not, don't let nobody cross the line. And they're gonna respect you like a sister, like a brother, like a soldier.
Yeah.
And I never ever had an incident with an ODA. The SEALs are a little something different, but and your conventional is even worse than your soft is. So if I want to be as a female by myself, I would prefer any day to be with a soft element than with the conventional forces.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that was the third deployment was with the SEAL teams.
No, it was with that first rotation.
Oh, I got you. When they cycled in. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
No, I would not. I tried to get a third deployment, but they PSYOP got scared, I guess, or that's what I say. They say they didn't want a female casualty out there because at the time they hadn't opened any of the combat arms out there. No, they didn't. Most higher ups didn't realize that I was even out there, and that wasn't the way they should get shotgun blasted with. All of a sudden you have a female KIA, even though it shouldn't matter what it is, but they got it important for me to take a knee and pull me to the battalion. That's when I decided I wasn't ready to stop, so I went to a special missions unit instead and try to find some fun over there.
Could you tell us a little bit about like what that process was like?
Well, first you assess it just like with SFAS for you guys. It's just with the special missions unit, it's a little longer. You guys are 20 days? No, 29 days. What?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. PSYOP is 11 days, while your SFA, your assessment and selection for a SMU is they give you orders for 45 days, and it depends. Sometimes it's less, and sometimes it's right around that one. But it was intense, but I do good at intensity. I do good at that. I do good at I can ruck all day. I've done the Bataan Memorial Death March multiple times. I've done it with the ruck, so I can do 26 plus miles with over 40 pounds easy at a shuffle run rate. So I had experience on that, so I did good. I feel I did. In fact, I felt comfortable. In basic training, I always felt comfortable. And then when you come out of basic training, you go to your unit, you're like, what? This is not what I thought it was. I didn't sign up for this. So with the Special Missions Unit 2, they told me that they'd never taken a PSYOP enlisted before in that specific part of the Special Missions Unit. But of course, they can't disclose what you're being assessed for, which one. So when I got slotted into the place where they thought that PSYOP would fit, and that was in the signal side. And I hate technology, and I was not ready for PSYOP, and for my mindset, I was PSYOP. Our best means of getting our product across is face to face.
Right.
Talking to people, And so in my mind, that transitioned over to human, not SIGINT. And I fought hard to try to transition to that one. And the process has changed because of the fight that I made. And they realized that they're interchangeable, but I assessed, I got accepted, I went through OTC, and near the end of the OTC is where I realized what the job was going to be. And I'm about job satisfaction, not my pay or promotion. And some people are like, hey, this is it. You get here, you're made it, you're made, you're going to make sergeant major, you're going to be cush, you're going to make great money. And I don't care. If I don't like what I'm doing, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's just the way I was raised. So when I realized it wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be, I tried transition. And I had a lot of pushback, but just one thing led to another. And yeah, but had another female was there too that was trying the same thing. Both of us were, she had already been working with SEALs before in Iraq. There's a good coffee, what is that, breakdown on her. She ended up dying in Syria 2019, Shannon Kent.
Yeah.
But me and her were adamant that we should switch to the other side. And you've heard her?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So then I ended up pregnant before her, so she stayed in that route. I pulled back, and then she ended up having her children later, and her story goes as it was. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
It happens.
So you were trying to move positions, and when you got pregnant, did you decide to leave, or what was that progression like?
Yeah, I volunteered to go back to my unit because I had talked to the powers that be, and along the route when near the end of ROTC, I said, hey, I don't think this is one's for me. Then the command said, well, to do that, you'll have to reassess. And I was like, I don't care. In fact, I did well in assessment selection. It's the same one. It's just they felt that they had to have separate ones, Delta has to have theirs, and then different entities within that unit wanted to have their separate ones. Mm-hmm. They have come to the thought that is the same thing, and now they actually assess together. But back then, to go from one to the other, it was like PSYOP and CA. They just, mine's bigger than yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to me that you were assessing for a position. They couldn't tell you what that position, like broadly speaking, mm-hmm. like human or signals, right? Like that seems like something you should kind of know going into it.
Yeah, I know. You don't, you just trust the process, right? They say trust the process, and you trust it. And then halfway down there, most people that ended up getting assessed for that one, I've been this far, I'll just accept it. There was just a few of us, me and this other female, that were outspoken about it, saying like it just makes no sense. I'm not a SIGINTer. I've never touched this. They did mention like, hey, this is not going to be your realm, and I didn't understand what they meant once I went through the course and I realized it. And I realized I'd probably end up starting a 9mm if I kept in that position, because I didn't like that type of job. I wanted to be on the ground. I needed to be on the ground at the time. I needed to go back to Afghanistan, and I wanted to go back with the humid. So I fought to transition. They accepted it. I talked to everybody, and they said, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why you were in that route. Why'd you pick it? I was like, I didn't pick it. No one tells you. So they said, go ahead and go reassess again. And I was prepping to reassess, but I didn't. Me and my husband were married 10 years already, and I just had gone off the depot, and within like 2 weeks, I ended up pregnant, and I couldn't believe that I could have been. In fact, I was 2 months pregnant and jumping out of airplanes still, because I didn't realize that. I thought I was just getting lazy. I kept working harder and harder, prepping for assess, and then all of a sudden I popped hot for the wrong thing. So I decided that would be the time to take a knee, have the baby. And I thought in my mind, I'd come back and assess for something I didn't know. I'd go assess for the female CAG side, because I know they had started theirs, and they had sent me a lot of letters, but I decided to try this one that I didn't know, try out Orange. And I thought I'd come back to brag. I'd have the baby, cut sling load, and assess. But I didn't realize that mommy was going to take over. So I had the baby, and mommy took over, and I just couldn't go again. I couldn't leave my baby.
I mean, it's a great story, and I mean, it's understandable, of course. I mean, you're a full-time soldier and a mother. One of those jobs is a full-time job. Doing both of them at the same time, I don't know how it's even possible, but some women do it.
And every role is different. I mean, you have males that are fathers, but in the early childhood of the child, most times they go to the mother first. So uh, they're not the same roles. They're different. No different than I understand that I'm not a man in special operations. I was a female, and I had to come at it as a female. So I had to sell myself what I had bringing to the team. You know, I'm small. I can hide places. I can crawl in tunnels. I can, the big old SF guys can't make it through the damn Afghan small doors, and here I am making through all the dang doors and the goat huts and everywhere you can think of. So and then I use the female portion to influence some actors at times. When we be in firefights, we go to the next village and let them know, hey, I take off my hat and I show them a female. I play the whole female. I was like, hey, they just hit us, and then all of a sudden they run from us, and then we start telling the elders that these fighters are running from a female when she's coming to bring humanitarian aid, because I set up to drop some humanitarian aid from the sky, and it makes them look really bad. And instantly, the word gets to them because they're all connected. They all know each other. So then they let them know that this female's making fun of them because they're running from a female and they can't even fight a female in the U.S. forces. And man, they hit us hard again because you can't ever pin them down. They just keep running, So we were trying to find a way to piss them off, poke the hornet's nest, and make them stay and fight. And it worked.
So after the birth of your child, and is this about the time that you start thinking about retirement? I mean, how does it roll after this?
No, at the time I wasn't thinking retirement because I was a career. I thought when I first joined that I was going to be until the day they kicked me out. And 30 years in, I loved it, and I just was naive and never thought that your hormones were going to switch like that. So I still came right back on it. I was, started rucking and running real quick, and it was just I was conflicted all the time. I take off to work, and then my husband was trying to be a stay-at-home dad, but it's a whole different thing, Men short circuit when they hear babies crying. That's why in SEER school they had the baby crying, right? I was the only female in SEER school, and it didn't bother me one bit. I slept right through it. But the men, when they came out, they were like I couldn't take it. I was gonna kill myself because of the baby crying, right? It's just something different. So I started thinking about it back then, but I knew that in PSYOP I can go to a regional side, the Kush side. I went to a regional battalion instead of tactical. And just like what you guys do, instead of your combat deployments, you do a JSET or you go out. How different is your job from one to the other? You can bring your family. I mean, you can't bring your family, but they can't stop your family from going to Ecuador or something. So that's what we intended to do. I was going to take an El Salvador mission. My family was going to follow me. But one thing led to another. I was going to get accepted to one of my 3434 friends, the 11 Charlie, had gotten over to the Black Daggers, and I like to skydive and I love jumping, and I was a jump master, and he was recruiting me to go over there. I submitted my packet and I got accepted over there, and I was going to go represent PSYOP in Black Daggers, and that was a method of me being able to stay here in States and stay with my family and take them with me traveling, and they were all for it, and my command was for it. But once the higher group command heard about it, PSYOP is our own worst enemy, and they saw to it that was going to happen. They blocked me from doing it. The USASOC first sergeant, sergeant major, they all got involved in it, and it just PSYOP, once they make up their mind, they said, I said so because I said so. It's the dick measuring contest again, and there was no way I was going to win that one, and they just sent me to the schoolhouse instead. And after all the fighting I did, I used to always fight everywhere. They opened up a position for PSYOP there. But another buddy of mine ended up taking it, but I lost that opportunity. I just got a sour taste after that. I stayed in the schoolhouse and decided to leave.
Why in the hell would PSYOP not want a accomplished female soldier representing them? Because the Black Daggers, for folks out there listening, I mean, that's like part of the public relations, the outward-facing soft recruitment that these people go and parachute into football stadiums and stuff like that. I don't understand why they wouldn't want someone like you out there representing the force.
I didn't understand either. That's why I fought it so hard. I'm a person that common sense. If there's a real reason, you tell me like, well, we need here, you need to deploy on this one, and I would have accepted it. But it was just because I said so. We need you in the battalion instead to go be, you know, the jump or NFC or some silly shit. You know, when you can put anybody there, like, well, you're a jump master, you need to be the air. I was like, no, you don't. You know, I mean, I've always been let me make my own road, and I end up butting heads with people when they tell me I can't make my own road. So I butted heads with quite a bit of people there, and I just SOP has a way of taking the soul out of you sometimes.
Yeah.
We shoot our own young, we eat our own young, and you know, and it's all because we have chips on our shoulders from SF or something. I don't know what it is, but I haven't figured it out.
And so that was about the point that you started thinking about retirement.
Yeah, I was already over 100 jumps. My body was starting to wear out. The kids started breaking me. I ended up pregnant with my second child, and then because I had been gone over to the schoolhouse and I was being the SLC instructor and kind of taking it easy there, and I had been a jump master instructor for our USASOC course running through, and then the PSYOP jump master course, and I decided when I ended up pregnant that I was pretty much done, and I had torn my shoulder and my back was tore up, and you know, knees and just the basics. And they had asked if I was looking into that. I was willing to take a medical retirement, and I said sure, why not? I was going to go ahead and just be a stay-at-home mom with my kids, and that's the route I took. So I just got medically retired instead.
And what year was that?
In 2019.
Okay,
So I was in 2018, 17, 18. I was at the schoolhouse.
So not all that long ago. And I mean, can you tell us what has life been like post Army? What have you been up to? How have you been adjusting to this new lifestyle?
Civilian life. Civilian life. It's easier to adjust because I moved all the way out here in the middle of nowhere. But stay-at-home mom is no joke. I tell you, you know, SEER school is nothing compared to motherhood and sleep deprivation and just lack of patience. You know, SEER school and being strong helped me be a mom to a very big 5-year-old boy who is 60 plus pounds that wants to be carried everywhere. So it's a big adjustment, but I have a lot of nostalgia, and some days, you know, I just think how different it would have been if I would have assessed and gone to another place, or if I would have just been able to take another rotation down to Afghanistan. And I know the SFAS opened up to females in 2015.
Somewhere around there, yeah. You know, I was thinking about it during this conversation, Melissa. It sounds like you were like a very highly motivated, competent soldier that was all about being a soldier and doing this job, but you maybe hit it, like timing wise, you hit it a little bit wrong because of that law not being repealed, the federal law that then now permits women into combat positions. And it's really unfortunate that you went through, there's like a formal selection that we all go through, but then there's also this weird informal selection that you also had to go through. That's really unfortunate, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of when that opened up, a lot of the team guys from 3434, but there was a lot of 18 series that go through the SMU as well, and you go side by side with them in the assessment and selection. And you know that we always talked about how different the assessment and selection was from SFAS compared to the Special Missions Unit. You know, just the difference between them motivating you and in the Special Missions Unit, it's either you want to be there, you don't. You just suck it up or you don't, and no one's going to tell you anything else. It's just a matter of your brain pushing you past it. And these guys that I would go through, that's when I first realized, me and this other female, that we weren't in the right place. When we assessed with these other guys, and then they got put into the one part of the unit, and we got put into this other part. And even when we were sitting there in this classroom, when they're first going through OTC, and they first split you up and they tell you where you're going to, and they read your letter that you're going to fit in. And we're looking at these guys that we'd gone through. And some of them, I deployed with someone. They were in a team, and I had worked a mission with them from 3131 or something. And then they're like, "What are you going over there? What's that stand for?" And I was like, "What are you going over there?" And we started realizing that we were getting split. And these guys were like, "Shit, you went through all that assessment and selection and everything. You should be in the same route over here." And when we were fighting, me and this other female that ended up dying, her husband was actually in the Kent. Her husband was in the other course, and we had worked with a lot of those SF guys, and they're talking about like you guys should have, if it would have opened up the SFAS a lot earlier for the females, we would have just left Dispute and gone and assessed over there, because he's like, that's what you guys fit in for,
Right.
both of us, and we just, bad timing, wrong, 2 years too late, and she ended up running her out, and I went mine.
Wow. I mean, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Melissa. I really enjoyed hearing it.
Yeah, sorry if I speak fast.
No, it was a lot of fun. Well, mostly it was really fun hearing about your experiences. I mean, there's some rough patches, terrible things that you experience out there in combat. But I appreciate you sharing that with us as well. And before we get going tonight, I mean, is there anything else, any final thoughts, or anything else you want to share? Anything that I didn't ask that you wish I had?
No, nothing that you didn't share, but I always want to say, nobody knows PSYOP. Nobody understands what PSYOP is in the Army, let alone outside of the Army. So like, they say, oh, you were a psychologist, but it's really hard to explain it. For you guys, how do you explain when you say, well, you were a SF? Everybody just thinks you're Rambo, right?
Yeah,
then you go try to explain to them. They say, well, what do you do as an 18 Delta, I think, or 18 Echo, whatever you were. And it's hard to explain it because every mission can dictate. Every, 1 minute you can be doing FID, the next minute you can be, something completely different, adjacent in another country. How do you explain yours?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think the recruitment videos always show, the direct action mission, because people can understand kicking in a door and shooting people, explaining by, with, and through, and, we use surrogates to influence and this and that. Like, yeah, people, you've already lost the public a lot of times when you start to talk about
it's
that.
Honestly, I mean, same as recruiting. It's honestly why village stability operations, weren't used as much as they should have been, and why they were cut off, because it doesn't brief as well as stacking bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though you think it works, it doesn't brief right. You're right.
Yeah.
I see that.
If there's not a metric for it, how can we show
Is it
what
even
we're doing?
real?
Yeah, is it even real? Right.
Well, again, Melissa, thank you so
That's
much.
PSYOP. Is it, what are you even doing? Is it real?
Yeah.
It's not measurable. See, at least like I built 10 wells, I built one school.
Right.
You guys can say I trained as 11 Bravo, I trained this, I'm a teacher, I did this many missions, I captured this high value target. PSYOP is not quite the same. So it's really hard to explain when people say, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, this has been terrific, Melissa, and thank you for taking some time out, while you got the kiddos around to speak with us for a little bit tonight.
We're happy that the internet service held up, since you're out in the middle of nowhere, enjoying your own little
Boonies.
piece of paradise.
Yeah, the boondocks.
Yeah. It kind of resembles Afghanistan, actually. It's mountainous, it's middle of nowhere. I don't burn my own shit, but whatever. I could if I wanted to.
Well, all right.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
For the folks out there, thank you for joining us, and
This is Christmas, right? So Merry Christmas.
Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. I think Hanukkah's over by the time they see this, but happy holidays, everyone. And we'll see you guys. The next episode will be our New Year's wrap-up, yearly wrap-up.
Sounds fun.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Melissa.